Air Canada is the flag carrier and the largest airline in Canada by all terms, including fleet size, number of destinations, and others. At the time of making this video, Air Canada's mainline fleet consists of 206 aircraft. In addition, the regional subsidiary, Air Canada Express, has 99 aircraft in its fleet, and the leisure subsidiary, Air Canada Rouge, has 40 aircraft. And while Air Canada Group Airline uses both Boeing and Airbus aircraft, you can clearly see that when it comes to airplanes currently being on order, Boeing is winning, as the airline has no orders for the Airbus A350 and A320neo, even though they are both extremely popular with other airlines also on the American continent. An A321XLR is a different story, as it has no competitor and Air Canada simply has no choice other than ordering them. Now let's answer the question, why did Air Canada say no to Airbus's state-of-the-art aircraft and choose Boeing instead? For years, Air Canada was a loyal customer of Airbus and Boeing, with the former prevailing, as all narrow-body aircraft since the retirement of the 737-200 in 2004 belonged to the A320 family. When it comes to wide-body fleet, the Canadian flag carrier has used both Boeing 777s and 767s, as well as A330s and A340s. So Air Canada has pretty much achieved a balance between two manufacturers in this sector. Therefore, what's happened that Air Canada no longer wants Airbus? Everything began in 2005 when Air Canada agreed to renew its wide-body fleet by purchasing 16 Boeing 777s and 14 Boeing 787-8s. It also placed options on 18 Boeing 777s and 46 Boeing 787s. The situation was then similar to the one with the A321XLR today. Airbus has no Dreamliner competitor on offer, as the redesigned A350 was officially presented in 2006 during the Farnborough Air Show, so almost a year after Air Canada's initial order. The new Boeing aircraft were to replace aging A340s and 767s. The order also included 777s in the 200LR variant, which was the longest-range jet in the world at the time. It enabled the airline to launch non-stop routes to Australia, replacing flights via Honolulu and India. Airbus also has no suitable aircraft as the competing Airbus A340-500 was a failure due to its 4 engines consuming a lot more fuel. On the 24th of April 2007, Air Canada exercised half of its options for the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. The firm order for the Dreamliners then stood at 37 plus 23 options, for a total of 60. At the time, there was no option to order Airbus A350s, as Air Canada has simply too small a wide-body fleet to sustain the aircraft made by 2 different manufacturers. So in this case, Airbus failed to deliver an acceptable aircraft on time. And even if the European company hasn't had the serious 777 competitor in its offer. But don't forget that since 1999, Air Canada also had A330 in its fleet. Now let's come to the narrow-body fleet. As of late 2024, Air Canada Group operates 80 aircraft belonging to the A320 family, equally split between Air Canada Mainline and Air Canada Rouge, though in the past, the airline had far more A320s. The story of this aircraft in Air Canada's fleet dates back to 1988, when the airline ordered 34 planes. And there is a very interesting story behind this order. Back in the 80s, Boeing was the most important company in the commercial aviation market. The company had also been a supplier of Air Canada for many years. During these times, Air Canada needed a new fleet of regional airliners. Airbus, a multinational European aircraft manufacturer, was having difficulties entering the North American airline market. It was alleged that German-Canadian businessman Karl-Heinz Schreiber had bribed Prime Minister Mulroney to purchase Airbus aircraft. And even though Mulroney countered that he had not acted inappropriately and that the allegations were part of a smear campaign, it was later determined that Mulroney had indeed acted inappropriately and had received at least $225,000 in cash. Canadian aviation entrepreneur Max Ward also agreed to purchase the Airbus A310, a wide-body airliner, instead of its American competitor, the Boeing 767. Wardair also received both a generous financing arrangement and an exclusive route and landing rights at Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris. These aircraft were eventually sold to the Canadian Armed Forces in 1992. This political scandal was even called an Airbus affair. So as you see, Air Canada purchased Airbus aircraft not only due to their performance and price. 25 years later, in 2013, the airline again had to decide about the future of its narrow-body fleet, and it again elected to perform a 180-degree turn as it ordered 61 Boeing 737 MAX jets. When the pandemic started, Air Canada decided to cut the MAX order by 11. At this time, MAXes were grounded, and Air Canada even wanted to order the A320neo, however decided against doing it due to very long waiting times. But what made Air Canada turn away from Airbus in 2013? The first reason was the price. Boeing offered a better deal, as the airline got a huge discount on the new jet, though the exact price is undisclosed. This was due to a previous order of the 787s. The American manufacturer also offered its planes sooner than its European competitor, and Air Canada needed to quickly replace some aging A320s that were reaching 30 years old. Now you can say that Air Canada still has Airbus aircraft on order, as the airline awaits delivery of 30 A321 XLRs. The answer is simple. There is no comparable plane in the market, so the Canadian flag carrier was forced to buy it if it wanted to compete against airlines from US and Europe on the transatlantic market. The A321 XLR is very unique, as it can fly up to 8,700 kilometers or around 5,400 miles. That will enable Air Canada to fly between Toronto, Montreal, and Central Eastern Europe, and airports that couldn't be served until now because of the lack of demand for wide-body service will be included in the transatlantic network. A321 XLR will also allow for an increased frequency on many routes, such as Los Angeles to Toronto. To compare, the Boeing 737 MAX 10 with a similar capacity is far behind with only 5,700 kilometers or 3,600 miles range, and the version with the longest range, MAX 7, can fly for up to 7,000 kilometers or 4,400 miles. There are also Airbus A220s in Air Canada's fleet, though this is only a marketing name, as the jet was originally designed as Bombardier C-Series by the Canadian aircraft manufacturer Bombardier, which later sold the program to Airbus. A220s are even produced at Montreal Mirabel Airport in Canada. So as you see, this was the best choice for Air Canada to buy domestic aircraft. In addition, Boeing doesn't have a comparable plane, as the only real competitor of the A220 is the Embraer E2 family, which is very unpopular in North America. Air Canada is a rare example of an airline that has many Airbus aircraft in its fleet, and yet it still decided to switch to Boeing. This decision was mainly driven by low prices, early delivery slots, and a lack of competing aircraft at the time of an order, as was the case with the 787s. In the future, the airline will still operate some Airbuses, namely A321, XLR, and A220.